Hello everyone, very good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking some time amidst your busy schedule and joining this session, this webinar session. Thank you very much once again. My name is Vivin Satyan and I am the pre-sales consultant for the Active Directory Solutions team here at ManageEngine. Now, over the next 45 to 60 minutes, I will be discussing about the topic Active Directory Management Challenges and its Solutions. So I will be focusing on one specific application that belongs to ManageEngine, and that's AD Manager Plus. And I'm going to show to you how this application helps you manage your Active Directory and also overcome the challenges that an administrator would face on a daily basis when it comes to object management in Active Directory. So let me give you the agenda for today's session. The agenda is I'd like to introduce you to the application itself because some of you might be new to the application. So I'm just going to start with what is AD Manager Plus. So, and the next thing is I'd be talking about the need for a solution. I mean, why do you need a solution in the first place to manage Active Directory? Why not stick to the native tools? So only when we understand or only when we get concrete answers for why do you need a solution for managing Active Directory, we'd be able to better understand or appreciate the capabilities of the application. And then I'll be giving you a quick overview, so just a quick introduction about all the features in the application, in the tool itself. And we dive right into our topic, which is what are the various challenges pertaining to object management that an administrator faces, and how does this application or this give you or this become a solution that's going to help the administrators overcome all those challenges. And at last we have the question and answer session. You can very well make use of the chat option available in your screen to shoot out any questions that you have in mind. I will do my best to answer those questions instantly. If not, please be assured I will definitely get back to you via emails. A recording of this session will also be available, so you can sit back and relax and just have a look at the screen, and I'm going to share some valuable information to you so you can just sit back and relax. Now, what is AD Manager Plus and what is this all about? Now, the website of AD Manager Plus is, if you need to go to the website, you can try visiting the website now. It's www.admanagerplus.com, all in one word, AD Manager Plus, all in one word. And that's the website. So if you go to the website, you can simply download this application. So it's free for the first 30 days, fully loaded, all the features, and you can install this on any computer that is connected to your Active Directory domain. It can be a domain controller, a member server, a file server, or even a workstation. So this is a web-based application. Now, what are the various capabilities? Okay, Active AD Manager Plus is a web-based application, but what are the various capabilities that this application has? Now, this is going to be an Active Directory management software, a web-based console for Active Directory management, a tool for not only for the IT administrators, but also for the IT technicians. So during the later part of the session, I'm going to tell you how this tool can be used not only by the administrators, by the IT administrators, but also by the help desk technicians and also by the HR department, the human resource department of your organization. So you are going to grant an Active Directory tool to your IT administrators, to your IT technicians, and also to your HR. So you are bringing all of them into picture when we talk about Active Directory object management. Now, Active Directory management is just one phase of this application. Now, this application also gives you insight into your Active Directory environment. So if you'd like to generate reports, we have close to 200 reports that you can get out of the box. And this application also allows you to delegate certain Active Directory actions without altering or without disturbing the Active Directory permissions. We are going to discuss about all this. And also automation. You have some routine Active Directory tasks that you keep doing manually on a regular basis. Why not automate it? You tell the application to do something on a specific date and time, and the application can do it for you. And workflow is all about Active Directory workflow. If you'd like to supervise an action that you have automated in Active Directory, you can very well link that automation to the workflow so that even before anything happens in Active Directory, you get to supervise the action. Only when you hit yes, the action takes place in Active Directory. So all this and much more is there in the application. So let's get to the application itself. But before diving into the application, why do you really need a solution like AD Manager Plus to manage Active Directory? Can you not do the same using the native tools? When I say the native tools, I'm referring to PowerShell, I'm referring to VB scripts, I'm referring to the Exchange Management Console, the Office 365 Admin Center, the Active Directory users and computers. All these are native tools, Microsoft tools. Can you not do all Active Directory management stuff using these tools? Yes, you can, but the level of complexity involved in handling multiple tools and the learning curve involved in the process is too much, is bigger, that's something that you cannot overlook. So we are talking about an effective solution which needs to be user-friendly. So if you still don't believe me, I'm just going to give you a proof. I'm pretty sure that all of you know what this is. This is a sample PowerShell script used for creating user accounts in Active Directory. Now, some of you might be familiar with, might be pretty good at scripting, at PowerShell scripting, and some of you might be newbies. So if this is going to be something that you need to do on a regular basis, just think about someone who is relatively new to PowerShell. Now, if you need to create an Exchange mailbox for an account, just think about adding a couple of lines of codes to this script. And if you'd like to add an Office 365 account, just add a few lines of code to the same script. So it's just going to add to the complexity. I'm not trying to belittle PowerShell here. PowerShell is going to be a very effective tool for querying information from Active Directory, but the tool does not do good when it comes to formatting information. So there are two aspects when it comes to Active Directory: querying and formatting. So it's good at querying, but not so good at formatting. And that's why you need to have a tool like AD Manager Plus in place to get things done in a much more quicker and effective manner. Alright, now let's talk about challenges and solutions, the topic for today's discussion. I'm just going to discuss about a few scenarios. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. I'm just going to talk about five to eight crucial scenarios, let's say, that you need to know that this application can solve. Even though this application can do a lot more, owing to time constraint, I'm just going to stick to, let's say, anywhere between 5 to 8 scenarios. Now, even before diving into the challenges and solutions, let me give you a quick overview about the application and then dive into the topic. All right. So I'm just going to switch tabs right here. This is the website that I was talking about, admanagerplus.com. As soon as you hit enter, you're there in the website. There you find the download button. You have an exe file for a 32-bit architecture and also for a 64-bit architecture. You can just go ahead and download this and start using the application. So you have all the resources right here, and if you need to get in touch with our tech team for any assistance for be it a demo or a proof of concept or anything technical, you can very well get in touch with us right here. Alright, now the application itself. I told you that this is a web-based application, so you can access this application from any computer that is connected to your network using a web browser. Now I have logged into AD Manager Plus, the Active Directory Management and Reporting solution. Now this is the home screen of AD Manager Plus. Now as soon as you log into this console, this gives you three graphs that's going to give you an overview about your Active Directory domain. Let's say you install this in one of your servers. This application has the capability of automatically discovering resources within your organization. This just needs read access to certain areas in your Active Directory in order to get those information. Now we have three graphs right here. The first graph is going to give you information pertaining to users, how many of them are inactive, disabled, locked out, and password expired users. And when it comes to computers, how many computers are there in your domain, how many of them are workstations, how many of them are domain controllers, and how many of them are disabled. And the same holds good for groups, OUs, and GPOs. So this dashboard is going to give you an idea about the objects in your Active Directory structure. And you can even drill down the report. Let's say logged out users. If you find there's one logged out user in your organization, and if you'd like to drill down this specific count in order to know which user is logged out, and if you'd like to unlock the user account, just go ahead and hit the number. It would take you directly to the logged out user's data screen, from wherein you can unlock the user account if that's required. All right. So this is just the dashboard. You have the various tabs right here. We are going to be talking about all this in a short while, but just a quick introduction. ADMGMT stands for Active Directory Management. When I say managing Active Directory, it's all about managing the objects within Active Directory. So you have separate sections here in the left-hand side, a section for managing users, computers, group objects, security and distribution groups, contacts, and even Office 365. And we're also talking about on-premise Exchange versions, be it Exchange version 2003, 7, 10, 13, or even 2016. The application can manage all of that. We are talking about dealing with OUs, organizational units, file servers, very important. We are going to discuss more about this. And if you just go to the next tab, which is reporting. Again, we have the categories here in the left side. So we have 200 reports, close to 200 reports here, clearly categorized. So you have reports based on users, reports for passwords, reports for group membership, or if you'd like to get security reports, yes, you have a section for that, or compliance, or reports for Office 365, you have it right here. Delegation, as the name indicates, this is going to allow you as an administrator to create customized Active Directory actions within the application and map those actions to the users in your Active Directory. And they can be technicians, they can be administrators, or even HR. So you create customized roles and then map it to those technicians so that they log into the application and do stuff that you have delegated them. And we'll be talking about this in detail in a short while. Automation. Now this is all about automating crucial stuff in Active Directory, like creating user accounts or deleting user accounts, or if you have an OU that has service accounts and you do not want any of those accounts to be locked out, you want them, even if they're locked out, you want them to be unlocked automatically. You can automate all such processes using the application. Workflow is all about request and approve methodology. So someone is going to trigger an Active Directory request that can be a user or a request raised by the automation, and you as an administrator can review or execute the request. We'll be talking about all this in detail in a short while. So now going back to our slides, which is challenges and solution. Now the first scenario that I'd like to discuss with you is going to be related to account provisioning. All right. Now, I know that all the administrators have to go through this routine process, which is creating user accounts on a regular basis. Now, while creating user accounts, you'll be creating user accounts that belong to different job titles. You'll be creating accounts for the IT department, for the marketing department, and when it comes to IT, you have multiple divisions. So how do you specify organization-specific naming format for the accounts that you create? And how do you have or implement a forest-wide check for duplicate entries? Let's say you create an account John Smith on day 1, and on the 10th day another user with the same name steps into your organization. So when you create an account in Active Directory, the application should proactively look in the entire forest, in the entire Active Directory forest, to see whether there are any accounts with the same name. And if there is any account, how is the application going to deal with all these changes? And you might have certain attributes as mandatory in Active Directory, but there are certain other attributes that are not mandatory by default in Active Directory, but you, for some reason or the other, would like to have that as mandatory. And the only way by which you can do it is by extending the schema, the Active Directory schema, for which you need privileged access. Now, wouldn't it be nice if there is a way by which you can set an attribute as mandatory without extending the schema? So that's exactly what we're going to have a look at now while creating user accounts. And also, if you are an administrator of a financial sector, I have seen financial sectors who restrict users' log-on activity after business hours for security reasons. So how do you impose log-on hours restrictions while you create an account in Active Directory? And how do you add them to the right groups? And how do you enable Exchange and Office 365 at the same time? Now, how do you perform all this using the application? So this is the challenge that we have in hand, and I'm going to show you how AD Manager Plus is going to help you provision accounts effectively in Active Directory. All right. Let me go back to the application. I'm going to go to ADMGMT, which is Active Directory Management, and I'm going to go to Create Single User. Alright, so this is just a very basic layout here, but the difference is you have it all under one roof. So if you are talking about the general attributes, you have it right here. So if you'd like to have Office 365, you have the Office 365 tab too. Alright, so just give me one sec. So Office 365 is right here, and you have Lync, Skype, or you can even enable remote mailbox or even an on-premise Exchange version 2003, 7, 10, 13, or even 2016. Yes, you can do that. So this is all about creating accounts in Active Directory using one simple console. Now, you as an administrator, you have two options here. You just go ahead and type the name of the user. Let me just type the first name and the last name of the user account. So you might notice something here. I just typed the first name and the last name of the user account, and the rest of the fields got auto-populated, and they are following a specific format. You might have noticed this. So I just typed the first name and the last name, the logon name, the pre-Windows 2000 name, the full name, and the display name got auto-populated, and even the email address. Now if you'd like to do this, alright, and hit create, you can create user accounts in Active Directory and at the same time enable Exchange, enable remote mailbox, and even create an Office 365 account. This is one way of doing it. Alright. Now the second way of doing it is by copying user attributes. While creating a user account in Active Directory, let's say you are going to create an account that belongs to the IT department. You already have a user in your Active Directory infrastructure belonging to the same department with the exact properties that you want for this account as well. You can make use of the copy user attributes feature and locate that specific user account and copy the user's property and get things done as simple as that. So you just select the user, select attributes. You can just pick and choose the attributes that you'd like to copy from this user account. I'm not going to copy employee ID, so I'm going to leave it unchecked. Description, office, container, and if you go to the account member of, which is the group membership, which is very important because you don't want two accounts of the same job description to be having different group memberships. So I'm going to copy the member of, I'm going to copy the logon script, the profile path, and also a few of the attributes that are right here. And the same holds good for contact and other attributes. Now after I have copied all the attributes that I want, I simply hit OK and apply. Now all the copied attributes will be present for this user account. So this saves us a lot of time when you are going to create one user account. And after all this, you just hit create. Now the minute you hit create, an AD account with all the permissions, with all the group membership gets created, and at the same time you can enable an exchange mailbox for this account. You can even enable Office 365 all in one stretch by assigning the right type of licenses. So this is the best part here. We are talking about 360-degree user provisioning and even Skype. So if you have Skype for Business or link server, you can very well choose your link servers from here and then hit create. So after filling all these values or all these attributes or making use of the copy user attributes feature, you can copy all the attributes that you want for this specific user account and then hit create. Now this is for creating one account at a time. Now what if you have a requirement of creating 5 user accounts for the IT team? It's then we use something called user creation templates. So let's just go ahead and explore something related to templates. I go to user creation templates and I'm going to create a new template. Alright, now the layout of this template, as you might notice here, is pretty much similar to the user creation layout which we just saw. Alright, so I'm just going to give this template a name. Let's say template for IT help desk. Alright, so I'm just going to create a template for the IT help desk. Oops, it looks like a template with the same name already exists. Alright, let's give it another name. Template for IT help desk temp. Good. Now, please notice that this is where you go to specify the naming format for user accounts. For instance, if you are going to create a template for the IT help desk accounts, and if you want the IT help desk accounts, all the IT help desk accounts that you create to have the same naming format. For example, you want the logon address of all those user accounts to be something like first name dot last name at domain.com. So this is where you go and choose your format. First name dot last name, you have it right here. And the sample format is given right here, john.smith at domain.com or workshop.com. You can also create your own naming format. If you don't find your naming format in the list, you just go ahead and create your own naming format. So you create your own naming format, and I was talking about setting an attribute as mandatory, a non-mandatory attribute like employee ID as mandatory, but without touching the schema. That's the best part here. So how do you make employee ID as mandatory without extending the schema? So if you are going to delegate this template to your help desk technicians, they don't or they cannot complete the user creation process if there is no value in the employee ID field, because I know that it is mandatory for certain organizations to have values in employee ID, but this is not mandatory by default. So I'm just going to make it mandatory now. Now please note that there's a red asterisk sign besides the mandatory attributes in Active Directory. So you have a red asterisk besides logon name, the pre-Windows 2000 and the full name, but nothing for employee ID, which means this is not a mandatory attribute. Let's make it mandatory now. In order to make it mandatory, I have an option right here which is enable drag and drop. I go to that, and the attribute that I'm looking for is employee ID. There it is. And I'd like to make it mandatory. So I'm going to edit the attribute. I have three options right here: mandatory, read only, or none. So I'm just going to change the option to mandatory and hit done. Alright, now I hit save template. Now if I save the template, I want you to notice something very carefully here. The minute I save the template, alright, I'm just going to reopen the template that we just created. If I go back to employee ID now, I find the red asterisk sign, which means we have now made the employee ID attribute as mandatory. And if I'm going to assign this template to a help desk, the help desk will not be able to complete the user creation process by skipping the employee ID, which means there has to be something in the employee ID field. This is how you do it. All right. Now, but if I'm going to use this template in order to create 5 or 10 accounts, how does this template deal with duplicate? There can be 20 Robert Smiths in an organization, in a large organization. So how is this application going to deal with all those duplicate entries? Now, again, I go to enable drag and drop. Alright, the first enable drag and drop option was making an attribute as mandatory. Now we are going to check for duplicates. Alright, now I would like to check for duplicates in the pre-Windows 2000 name. I don't want any duplicates. Alright, so again I edit the field. I have something called check for duplicates. That's good. That's exactly what I was looking for. I select the checkbox. Domain or forest. Now if you are an administrator managing multiple domains, you might want to pick and choose the option forest. Alright, so I just always go with forest to be on the safer side. So a forest-wide check for duplicates. Now what if a duplicate entry is found? What is the application going to do? The application can automatically apply a different format that I choose. The format can be something like last name.firstname, or it can even automatically append numbers to the duplicate entry. So if the first user account is davidsmith@domain.com and another user with the same name is there in the organization, when I create an AD account for the second user, it's going to be davidsmith2@domain.com. Or I can even simply apply a different naming format if that is something that I need. Or simply do not create a user account. You would just get a pop-up in your screen stating a duplicate entry exists. All right, so you can pick and choose the option that suits your requirement. All right, now this is for dealing with duplicate entries, and also we saw how to make an attribute as mandatory without extending the schema. Now I know that you will be assigning this template. You'll be assigning this template to your help desk technicians or to the HR, but your technicians or your HR need not have access to all these tabs. You think that this is way too much for them. You would like to make sure that you customize and then grant this template or delegate this template to your technicians. So how do you customize the layout? Here you go. If you are granting this template to the HR, you'd better make sure that you keep it simple. So I'm just going to delete the Exchange tab from the layout. It's gone. I'm just going to delete all the complex stuff from this tab. I'm just going to delete the terminal. I'm just going to remove link or Skype. I don't want Skype. I don't want Office 365. I'm just going to remove this. Alright. So I'm just going to remove all the complex ones and just leave the simple ones here. And even custom attributes, if I want, yes, I can leave it here, else just keep it, just remove it from the tab. I also have an option to run a custom script after the user account is created, but that's a different story altogether. I'm not going to dive deep into that. Let me delete so I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible, and then save the template. Now we have saved the template. I'm going to just reopen the template to show you how the layout actually looks like. Alright, so template for IT help desk temp. So here you go. You just have 3 tabs right here: general, account, and contact, and nothing more. So if you wish to delegate this template to a HR, you can very well do that. They'll be able to fill just the basic values here and then raise a request for user creation. Okay, now how would you use this to create user accounts in bulk? Now you've created a template, that's good, but how are you going to use this template in order to create user accounts in bulk? That's the question. You have an option to automate the process of user creation. We have 2 ways of creating multiple accounts. 1, a manual process. 2, by automation. I'm going to first discuss the manual process with you and then go to the automation part. Okay? First, the manual process. I go to AD MGMT. We all know how to create one user account. We just saw that, and we saw something related to the templates as well. But how would I create 5 user accounts in Active Directory and all 5 of them belonging to different departments? Alright. I go to create bulk users. Alright. Create bulk users. I have an option here to choose the template. I can pick and choose the template that we just created. So the template that we just created is going to be template for IT help desk temp. It's listed right here. I can even choose this template, but this is not mandatory. So if I'm going to create all 5 accounts belonging to the same department, I can pick and choose the template from here. If not, I can very well specify this template in the CSV file. So we need 2 things in order to create user accounts in bulk: a CSV file and a template. So we very well know what is a template and how to create a template. Let me show you what is a CSV file. I'm just going to open a sample CSV file right here. This is a sample CSV file. Let me just zoom it a little. All right. A CSV file is something that has a header, a file that has a header which is in LDAP format, below which you have the values here. Alright, so as you can see here, all these headers are going to be in a peculiar format, which is LDAP format. So instead of first name, you need to make sure that the header is given name. So instead of last name, you need to make sure that the header is SN. And if you're wondering why, because your domain controllers would only understand LDAP headers, and these are LDAP headers. So if I'm going to specify first name instead of given name here, your your domain controllers wouldn't understand first name. And that's why you need to specify the LDAP header of first name, which is given name, below which you have the value. And this is the value for the second user, for the third user, fourth and fifth. And if you need to invoke or call a template from this layout, all you need to do is just add an additional header, which is template name, below which you specify the name of the template. That's it. So the 3 basic attributes that you need to have in a CSV file is this: first name of the user, initials, and last name of the user account, followed by the template name, the name of the template. You need not have all this, because all this is defined, is already defined in the template. You can simply invoke the template and create user accounts. And if you're wondering where to go in order to find out the mappings for this specific LDAP header, do not worry, we have it covered. You just go to the help link here in the top right. You go to the help link, and if you go to the help link and you have a section for CSV import, you go to CSV import, create users using CSV, and then you have list of LDAP attributes supported. There you go. List of LDAP attributes supported. The name in Active Directory is the first column and its corresponding LDAP header, which is the header that should be in the CSV file. For first name, it is given name. For last name, it is SN, and so on and so forth. All right. So this is how you create user accounts in bulk and also one by one using a CSV file and a template. So if you have any questions, please do let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions here. So that's going to be scenario number one, which is, once again, how do you specify an organization specific format, and how do you make an attribute as mandatory, assign them to the right groups, enable Exchange, Office 365, so on and so forth. Now all this is available in the template itself. So I did not dive deep into the topic, but everything is available within the template itself. You can just have a look. Now, scenario number two. I'm about to discuss the automatic way of provisioning user accounts in a short while, so I'll get to that in a short while when we talk about automation. But for now, scenario number two. So any Active Directory environment would have inactive users and computers, all right? Now, how are you going to find out users who have not logged into your Active Directory infrastructure for the last 180 days, or roughly 6 months? And how are you going to sequentially remove their accounts from Active Directory? Again, there are two ways of doing this, manual and automatic. I'm going to show you the manual way first. All right. Now, I go to the reporting section right here, reports. All right, and I have a report dedicated to find out the users who have not logged on for a specific time period. I go to inactive users, okay, and then I would like to find out users who have not logged into my AD in the last 180 days, and then hit generate. So this is going to be a multi-domain controller report, which is going to query all the configured domain controllers. And as you can see here, I have 72 users who have not logged into my Active Directory infrastructure for the last 180 days. All right, so which means it's time for me to take some action regarding this. So what I can do here is, since I have 72 accounts and I find that some of them are in enable state, I need to make sure that this is handled properly, because I don't want this to create a security threat. Because if any of these inactive accounts are one of an administrator who has left the organization, and if someone is going to misuse an administrator account, that can bring down my Active Directory in less than 5 minutes. If someone modifies a GPO, a domain linked GPO, that's going to cause a lot of trouble. So I'm just going to deal these accounts. So what I'm going to do now is I select the account, let's say this account. I find that this account is in enable state, which means I need to fix this. So I am going to move this user account to a separate OU that I want. I don't want this account to be in the same OU as that of the regular users. I'd like to move this account to another quarantine OU that I have. Okay, okay, workshop OU, and I hit OK. Okay, and there you go. So now using a single mouse click, I have now moved the user to an OU that I want. Not only that, alright, so if I'd like to do something else, if I'd like to make another action, I just go back and I have the list right here, the list of users who have not logged into my domain for the last 180 days. I can very well disable the account if I want, or I can even delete the account if that's something that is required. Or I have also more options right here. If I go to, more actions, I can reset the account's password. I can unlock the account if it's locked out, or I can do anything that I want pertaining to management just by generating a report. Now this is what we call as on-the-fly Active Directory management. Alright. Now this is one way of doing stuff, which is removing accounts from Active Directory. But you can also automate the stuff using Active Directory. You can also very well automate the process of removing user accounts from Active Directory. Let me show you how to do that. So you go to automation. Alright. Now if you go to automation, now what we are going to do now is we are going to create a policy. Now that policy is going to remove user accounts, remove inactive user accounts from Active Directory based on a sequence, right? So let me just go ahead and create a new policy here. I'd like to automate the process of deprovisioning inactive accounts. Automating deprovisioning of AD accounts. Of inactive accounts. Alright, now the first thing that I'd like to do is, as soon as an inactive account is found by the application, I would like to separate the account, which is I would like to move those accounts to an OU that I want. Alright, and then I'd like to wait for 3 days and then remove the account from all the groups that the account is a member of. Let's say the report has close to 50 inactive accounts. I want all the group memberships of those 50 accounts to be removed for security reasons, because some of those users might be linked to the top level domains top level groups as well. And after 10 days I want the accounts to be disabled, and after 30 days I would like to delete the accounts from Active Directory. So it's going to be, this policy has 4 actions: move users to a different OU, wait for 3 days, remove the users from all the groups that they are a member of, wait for 10 days, and then disable the accounts, wait for 30 days, and then delete the accounts. Now I'm going to save this policy, alright? So I've just decided the sequence here, alright? I've not activated the sequence. So this is just a policy that has the sequence. In order to execute this policy, I go to automation. I create a new automation. And then I'm just going to choose the policy that we just created, which is right here, automating reprovisioning of inactive accounts. This is the one that we created because this has 4 actions. Alright, now I've selected the policy that I want to execute, and now I need to provide an input in the sense as this has to be selected in order for the application to find out the users who are inactive. So I'm just going to pick and choose the input from one of the reports that are built in, which is inactive users report, and that's going to be for the last 180 days, and I can even add conditions to refine my search, and I hit OK. Now since this is going to be a housekeeping activity, an Active Directory housekeeping activity, I'd like to do this on a monthly basis. Not daily, weekly, hourly, or I'm just going to do it on a monthly basis. let's say on the 15th of every month at 2 p.m. All right, and I hit save. So if I hit save, every month on the 15th at 2 p.m. AD Manager Plus would automatically generate the inactive users report for the last 180 days, and then it would start executing the policy that we have just created. Now, I know that some of you might not be comfortable in letting the application do stuff in Active Directory. For those of you, you can very well implement the business workflow for this automation, which means this automation is going to create a request on behalf of the action, and you as administrators will be notified as and when a request is raised in the workflow section. And you can very well have a look at the request. If you find that the request is valid, you approve, else you reject. So this is one way of automating stuff in Active Directory. And we were also talking about you creating user accounts, and I told you that there are two ways by which you can create accounts in bulk: manual and automatic. This is the automatic way of creating user accounts. So I have these many tasks that I can automate. All right, so create users, modify users, delete them, disable them, and a lot more. So I'm just going to select the task create users. All right, create users. Now, as soon as I select the task to be automated as create users, it wants me to choose a template. We already know what a template is, and I have also created a template. We just created a template for the help desk, which is right here, template for IT help desk. And the last thing that I need to do is specify the location of the CSV file that we just created. The CSV file, as we saw, is nothing but it can be a simple Excel sheet that has the name of the user accounts that you're going to create. So if you have a HR database system in place that's going to dump a CSV file somewhere in your network path, you can specify the location here, location of the network path here, and then schedule this activity, let's say on a daily basis, daily at 2 p.m. and hit save. So on a daily basis at 2 p.m., the automation would go to the network path that you have defined, and it would look for a CSV file, and it would read the information from the CSV file. And it would use the template and create user accounts in Active Directory, any number of user accounts you want. And day 2, the process repeats. And day 2, if you have not added any new users to the CSV file, the automation is going to look through the CSV file, and it would find out that there are no users added, and the users will not be created on that specific day. And day 3, you add another user to the file, the account will be created in Active Directory. You can create any number of automation policies or automation you want based on your requirement. So this is how you automate crucial stuff in Active Directory. All right, so that was scenario number 2, and now to scenario number 3. How are you going to manage permissions on confidential files and folders? Any IT organization would have confidential data stored in a shared location. At least 10% of the confidential data would be stored in a network path, in a Windows network path. And you need to make sure that that confidential data is accessible only by the appropriate users, and it's not misused by anyone else. So if you need to find out who has permissions, access permission on confidential data, and if you find that there are inappropriate users in the list, in the permission list, how would you perform a permission cleanup? That's going to be scenario number 3. So task number 1, finding out who has access to confidential data. Task number 2, clean up inappropriate permissions. Let's go back to the application. Task number 1, finding out who has access to business critical data. So I go to NTFS report. I have 4 reports: shares and servers, permission for folders, because this is exactly what we are looking for, to find out who has access on a specific business critical folder. So I go to permission for folders. Alright, I select the share, the confidential share that I'd like to review the permissions, and I have all my file servers listed here. I just pick and choose the file server in which there is the share. So I pick and choose the share right here, and the share that I'd like to read the permissions for is going to be the first share, which is confidential share. Alright, I just wanted to make sure that the confidential share is accessible only by the administrators and no one else. Let's see who else has access to this confidential share. I hit OK, and that confidential share has 50 subfolders, or let's say 10 subfolders within it. I'm just going to generate the report for all 10 subfolders, including the parent folder. Alright, here we go. I have the list of permission. Okay, it looks like the administrators have access to the share, the domain admins, which is okay. Now JISEC, now this is an individual user, and I see that the users group has access to business critical data, which I don't want. So how am I going to remove the inappropriate permissions? And wait a minute, what level of access do these users have on that specific share? Let's just have a look at the permissions. So I go to permissions right here, and I go to advanced. Alright, so okay, so the type of permission is going to be a deny permission, and that's for delete. Alright, so even though this is going to be a delete operation, a denied delete operation, so I'm just going to make sure that this specific account, JISEC, has no control over that folder, and it's only going to be domain admins who has access to this confidential share. Alright, let's do that. Permission cleanup. In order to clean up permission, now I know that who has access to confidential data. I go to ADMGMT, and then I go to File Server Management. I'm trying to modify the NTFS permissions here, so I go to Modify NTFS Permissions, and what I do is I'm just going to select the exact share that we are talking about. So I select folders. Alright, okay, it's right here within this file server, ADMP-DC1. I'm talking about the confidential share. Exactly. I hit OK, and this is where I go ahead and define the permission. So I only want the domain administrators to be able to access the confidential share. So I'm going to search for not users but groups. Alright, so I go to the other tab, groups, and I'm going to look for domain admins. Alright, or simply admin. If I look for admins, I have administrators, DNS admins, domain admins right there. I hit OK. And do I want to give them full control over the share, or just read access, or any specific access? Let's say I'll go with full control, and to all subfolders or to only the parent level folder. Let's say all subfolders in file. And it's definitely not going to be a deny, it's going to be an allow permission. If I'd like to grant another user or group access to this confidential share, I can very well do that as well, if that's my requirement. But for now, I'm just going to grant domain users, domain administrators the access to confidential share. But our job is only half done. How would I remove all the existing permissions? I understand that we are trying to set domain admins there, but how would I remove the existing ones? That's still undone. That's where you have a checkbox coming into play. Now, this checkbox here reads, remove all existing permissions and apply only the above ones. So I'm just going to check the second checkbox, Alright, and then hit modify. Now if I hit modify, alright, so now we have successfully modified the permissions on that share. So which means now if you have a look at the permission of this confidential share, only domain administrators will be able to view the contents within the confidential share and no one else. So this is how you do it. Removing permissions on confidential data. And scenario number 4. I know that I have had the opportunity of interacting with a lot of administrators over the last 5 to 7 years in this company. So I've had the discussion with a lot of administrators across the world, and I've also implemented Active Directory solutions for quite a few organizations. Now, I have often come across a situation in which a user who is just a part of the basic security group of an organization somehow has admin level rights, but the administrator of the organization has no idea how that rights got into place. So that's when we used a tool like AD Manager Plus to investigate something called as nested group membership. Let me tell you what that is. A user can be a member of group A, B, and C, which are basic security groups. But what if group A is iteratively linked to a top level group, let's say the domain admin group, not in a direct manner, but in a nested fashion? That's going to, in turn, let the user have domain admin rights in an indirect manner. So we need to make sure that we investigate not only the direct group membership, but also the nested group membership. And trust me, the Microsoft console that you are going to use will only let you know the direct group membership of a user account and not the nested group membership. And that's when you need a tool like AD Manager Plus to verify the nested group membership. All right, so we have a report dedicated for nested group membership. So you go to AD reports. You have 2 reports right here, users in groups or groups for users. You can perform the search the other way around. But we're not talking about this. We are talking about much more detailed reports. So I go to the group reports category and I go to detailed group members report right here. And if I go to detailed group members, I need to verify the exact group membership of a group. So what I do is I specify, or I select the group that I'd like to query. So I'm just going to pick and choose a group here. Let's say, okay, let me search for the group admin. All right, that's loading. There you go. Domain admins. Now, I can even exclude nested groups, but I'm not trying to exclude nested groups. I'm intentionally searching for nested groups, so I'm not going to leave this checked. So I'm just going to leave it unchecked. I'd like to fetch users within the domain admins group, groups that are directly and in a nested manner linked to the domain admins group, computers that are linked to the domain admins group, and also contacts that are linked to the domain admins group. And within users, I want these many attributes to be displayed. So I want all the general attributes, the account, the contact, and the exchange attributes to be displayed, if that is something that I'm looking for. All right. So for now, I'm just going to keep it simple here. I just wanted to verify the group membership of this specific group in terms of direct and nested group membership. All right, so here we have the list. So I have 7 users belonging to the group. And if I just have a look at the groups tab right here, it looks like this group is in turn linked to 3 other groups, which are security groups. If I feel that this is not right, I can very well remove some of these groups from being members of domain admins. So this is how you investigate nested group membership. And if you are wondering why a normal user account is having admin level rights, the first thing that you need to do is just go ahead and select the basic group that the user is a member of right here and investigate the group membership. And if you see any domain admins group right here, that's how the user is getting admin level rights. All right, as simple as that. All right, so we are ending the we are come to the end of the session here. Now the next part is going to be, how do you delegate stuff to your HR, IT technician and the IT administrator? That's when we have something called delegation coming into picture. AD delegation. All right. Now within delegation we have something called help desk roles and help desk technicians. Help desk roles are nothing but the actions that you can delegate to the other users in your Active Directory infrastructure. And the most important part, I want you to pay attention right here, the most important part is you are not going to alter the permissions of a user account in Active Directory by mapping a role to this specific, to that specific user account. That's the best part here. We are not touching Active Directory permissions. For example, if you are creating a role for the HTT, let's give it the name, the HTT, Help Desk Technician role, and you want the HTT to create user accounts but not in bulk, so I'm just leaving it unchecked. So create user accounts one by one, and you want them to reset password. Just these two stuff, nothing else. All right, so create user account and reset password, no bulk operations. Okay, so if this is going to be something that you want this role to do, you just hit save role. Okay, we have saved the roles right here, HTT, and I'm going to show you how this role looks like in real time. I'm going to quickly map it to the technician. So in order to map this role to one of your users, you go to Help Desk Technician. You can already map it to an existing technician if you want, or you just go ahead and add a new technician. You select your Active Directory user, and then you pick and choose the role that you created. Okay, and the best part here is you can even restrict the actions of this specific user to a certain OU that you want. If you don't want this technician to be performing the actions in all the organizational unit, you just want him to manage one OU, you can even do that and hit save. And you also have a section for auditing who does what in Active Directory, and this is going to give you who, what, when, and where. So complete audit trail of any actions done by your technicians. I'm going to quickly sign out and sign in with the technician account to show you the world of a difference. I've already created an account here. Again, this is not going to be a local authentication. This is a domain username and password that I've just created. So I'm just trying to log in here. Please have a look at the screen right now. So this user just has the reset password option. So no AD reports, no delegation, no automation, or nothing. So this is how granular it can be. So you can grant the access to your technicians so that they just have access to whatever you delegate. So that's pretty much about the application. If you have any questions, please do shoot out the questions, and the video of this session will also be available to you. If at all, if you have any questions, this is the email address to which you need to shoot out an email address, which is support@admanagerplus.com. All right, so we'll be expecting a lot of questions from you. I already have a lot of questions, and if you want a proof of concept or a demo or anything of that sort, please do let us know. Again, the email address is going to be support@admanagerplus.com. Thank you very much for spending some time. I hope the session was useful. You all have a nice evening. Bye-bye.